Welcome to First Impact, a weekly podcast where we discuss the 90s anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm Jordan, and with me is my co-host, Old Jen. Our first episode today is episode 15, Those Women Long for the Touch of Others' Lips and Thus Invited Their Kisses, originally aired on January 10th, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and Akio Satsukawa, and directed by Naoyasu Habu. A little bit more of a sort of quiet, character-driven episode.
No angels
even though
to
I
be
think
seen.
We say that about all of them.
Yeah, right.
No action.
No action.
No big set pieces. Instead, what we have is a lot of sort of revelations of character interplay.
The action takes place in the hearts of the characters in this episode.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Yeah, so this episode starts with Fuyutsuki and Gendo
in the chopper,
basically revealing that they are aware of Ryoji Kaji's duplicitous nature.
And they're sort of letting him...
Yeah, they want to use him.
Giving him some rope for him to hang himself with.
Yeah.
That's the phrase.
Shortly after, we see that he is meeting with someone who, by the end of the episode, I think we can infer is from the department, the Ministry of Defense.
Yep.
And is liaising with her about her investigation into the Marduk Institute, who are supposed to be the committee that selects the Evangelion pilots.
What do you mean supposed to be? It's not true?
In that same scene, this is the 107th dummy corporation that they've discovered that makes up the Marduk Institute, and they're all fake, but the board of directors are Gendo, Fuyutsuki, and Keel, who is the Visorman from the Seilei Committee.
Dude.
John Visorman.
Yeah, right.
And so from that, I guess we can sort of put together that the selection of the Evangelion pilots is done by Nerve. That there is no actual Marduk Institute.
Correct, which makes me think. I'd never really thought of the selection process up until now. Yeah,
they've all sort of had this Shinji is Gendo's son.
Yeah.
Rei is this strange girl who they've sort of picked up at a young age and just decided you're going to be a pilot. We're going to make you a pilot.
We don't really know about her. Yep.
Asuka is also very similar, that she appears to be trained from a young age to be a pilot.
Yeah.
We haven't really had too much of an insight into her backstory yet.
No, not really.
No.
I sort of have, for a time I had this idea of kids write in, 25 words or less. Why should you be our next EVA pilot? I mean, that's if that was the selection process, Kensuke, he would have had his little his full resume and portfolio filled out and submitted. And then it just arrives on there's a whole department within Nerve tasked with shredding the applications of all those poor school children. Because, again, the Marduk Institute is a fraud.
Yeah.
So they're just
it's going to no one.
It's going to... Gendo just takes delight in.
There's a special post box that it just goes into and immediately is shredded.
Incinerated. Oh, well.
Yeah. So at school, Asuka, we get that sort of this episode goes in hard on Asuka's infatuation with Kaji.
I think it's a front. I think it's a Marduk Institute. Because, Mr. Kaji, I love you so much. And then she goes on a date with...
Well, the fake prank.
Yeah.
She calls him and... desperate to get his attention.
I'm being attacked by a pervert.
Yeah.
Kaji's like, how can you be being attacked by a pervert when I'm on the other side of the phone, right?
I would have to be there
exactly.
for that to be happening. Yeah.
I'm the only pervert in this town. I've killed all the others.
Yeah, and in that same scene, the class rep, tries to hook Asuka up with her friend. Yeah, her sister's friend.
Mm-hmm.
Asuka sort of agrees, even though Kaji is the only man for her.
I think Shinji's the only man.
Well...
Because she comes home early...
Is he or is he just convenient?
No. She comes home early from the date saying, he was so boring. I guess I'll just have to come,
Shinji arguably very boring, but also they have the common...
EVA pilot thing.
Yeah, they're both EVA pilots, which makes him just, despite being a boring disposition, makes him interesting by default.
It is crazy sometimes how sort of, apart from Kensuke, who's all about the pilots and all about the, fanboying out on these dudes, how, sort of how uncool Shinji still is.
Yeah, he had that moment where he got a little bit of swag.
Oh, that's right.
Got that little bit of confidence boost, but he's sort of having his shit pushed in has certainly put him back in his
That's true.
Sort of
He
place.
does get knocked
He's
down
very
pretty-
demure again about this whole thing.
That is true, actually. He sort of has reverted a little bit.
So in the school,
Yeah.
in the classroom scene, they're cleaning.
Yes.
The class is cleaning the room, and Shinji's watching Rei wringing out the washcloth, which we'll put a pin in that because that becomes a little bit relevant later on.
All right.
So Shinji also goes to the cemetery with his father.
Yeah.
So this is one of those rare sort of like Shinji Genjo scene. Genjo.
How
That's
dare
their
you
celebrity
mispronounce
name.
Their power couple name.
Yeah. Shinji and Gendo, one of their rare sort of like moments
Outings.
together. They're at his mother's grave.
Yep.
So
Yep.
almost like the first acknowledgement of her name, Yui.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard it before.
And Gendo says that her body's not even there.
Right.
And that he has no pictures of her. And we also find out that Shinji, the last time that they were together at the cemetery
He ran
was
away.
3 years ago, and he actually did run away.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it was sort of like that he was sent away.
Oh.
In the first episode, I
Yeah.
think it's implied that he was sent away by Gendo,
Okay.
but he actually ran.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I'm weaving a little bit of a... What was the name of that episode? Weaving a Story?
Oh, yeah, the
Was
previous
that,
one.
Was that the previous episode?
Yeah, that
I'm
was the
weaving a
recap.
bit of story in my mind, and sort of all these little tidbits are sort of adding to and confirming it. I reckon, this Adam thing, the human no one can talk today. The Human Instrumentality Project. I reckon Gendo's trying to resurrect his dead wife.
Right.
The body's not there.
Yeah, because he does say the body's not there, but also Shinji's like, you don't have any pictures, and he's like, I have all the memories in my heart. That will do for now.
Yes, for now. Sorry,
For now.
that was the thing that I think for
so
now.
his, it would be a safe bet to say that the Human Instrumentality Project, or at the very least, the work he does with the Evangelions,
yeah.
is related to like
It's got to be.
that sort of like, I guess, what feels like a throwaway line in the moment. Certainly for Shinji, I don't think he's like, "What do you mean for now?"
What do
He
you mean
just
for
sort of
now,
like
Dad?
just gets left at the cemetery. Gendo flies off, Rei's in the helicopter for some reason,
Well, that's right.
and he just flies
was
off.
weird.
Shinji's like in
Guess
this
I gotta
giant
walk
fucking
back.
cemetery. Like, well, I guess I'll fucking
Yeah,
walk
yeah.
home.
How do you reckon? Honestly, how do you reckon he got home? Probably some
He just
hand.
walked. He walked to like a train. Yeah, that has to be like a second impact cemetery. It's got sort of like war cemetery feel to it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Where it's just all very simple blank gravestones in a giant fucking really like aesthetically pleasing sort of like pink sort of like soft tone
As far
field.
as cemetery goes, it was pretty attractive.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic.
Yeah. From there we go to the wedding that Masato and Ritsuko were talking about earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
And Kaji arrives late, but we start
Typical.
getting like that dynamic between the three again.
Yeah,
That they're like,
certainly.
they are old classmates from college or university, and we get the sort of like, I guess, Masato and Kaji's like old habits of being in a relationship.
Old rhythms.
Yeah, like fixing up his tie,
right.
her being bothered by his stubble, and Ritsuko, goes as far as commenting on them looking like an old married couple.
Right. Yeah, and the wedding, I mean, Ritsuko and Masato sort of say themselves how many weddings they've been going to, right?
Yeah, well, they're at that age, where all their sort of classmates would be hitting the point where they want to get married before they get too far into their late 20s, early 30s.
That's the thing. In Tokyo 3, which is a war zone, basically, 30 is like 60,
Yeah, like
you got to get married
your
before
age is
you die.
doubled in a war zone.
Especially considering, I know, it's a weird place to live in Tokyo 3. We've already established in a previous episode that as soon as you become a mother, you die. Everyone's mother is dead in this show.
Yes.
Except for Shinji's, who's really in a lab somewhere. Half woman, half angel.
She's like Mr. Freeze's wife. She's in a cryo tube.
Oh, man.
He's just trying to find a cure.
Yeah, right.
From the wedding, we do cut back to seeing what Shinji and Asuka are up to at home.
Yeah.
Asuka comes home early from the date.
Suspicious.
Yeah, she decided that she didn't like the guy.
Yeah, okay.
And she's bailed on it. And she comes home and she sees Shinji playing the cello.
Yep.
And another sort of look
Pretty
into
well.
just how Shinji like is so his lack of agency in everything.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say. It was so sad.
He picked up the cello because his teacher's like, "Hey, you should learn an instrument," and then he still plays because
No
he
one
was
told
never-
him to stop.
Yeah, like just this character and the shell that he is.
Yes.
So often in like
Right.
everything that he does.
He's got poor calloused hands from playing the cello so much.
Yeah, because no one told.
No one
He's
told
been
him to
literally
stop.
playing that cello
Yeah,
for,
right.
for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Or even longer. He started when he was 5.
Started when he was 5. How old is he? 14?
Yeah,
15.
about that. Yeah,
He played it pretty well.
Asuka and Shinji at home alone, and this is something that
Excuse you, Pen was
oh
there.
yeah, sorry, Pen's there.
He was a
too.
chaperone.
Something that I'd only really recently noticed on this watching of the show, and that I hadn't brought up yet, is this is another instance of Shinji and Asuka home alone, Masato being out,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you've noticed what Asuka wears when Masato's not home.
Feel I'm walking into a trap because if I say yes, you're going to be like, ha, oh, Jen, you're the sex pest.
No,
not
it's no
Masato.
trap.
No? Okay.
She wears Masato's clothes.
Oh.
Asuka wears
No, I did not
the
notice
yellow
that.
shirt, and arguably that they're her own like shorts,
Right.
but
Okay.
but they are a very similar cut and style as well.
Right.
But I think undeniably is wearing Masato's shirt, the yellow one that you get from the first
Oh, yes.
episode. Basically,
I do
all
remember
of the early scenes when
Yes.
Shinji and Masato are
I
home
can
alone.
picture Masato in the yellow shirt.
Yeah,
Right.
and it looks big on Asuka.
Okay. All right. Assuming that's the case, which I'm pretty sure you're right.
Which I think is this real sort of like that alluding to the sort of Asuka's infatuation with Kaji.
Oh.
And Kaji's like and Masato's previous relationship, and obvious that like Kaji, given the chance, would
Yeah.
rekindle that relationship in a heartbeat.
Oh my God.
Though it's hard to
This
tell
is
with his
creepy.
sort of like the
Yeah.
way he is the free balling sort of like
Free balling or-
smooth talker,
Or freewheeling.
freewheeling.
Free balling's
Where's
a
the free
totally
balling?
different thing.
Well, you don't know. We haven't seen
Look,
what he wears under his pants.
I was about to say, given Kaji's thinking that stubble and a loose tie is suitable for a wedding, I wouldn't be surprised if he casually freeballs it as well.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And I do now sort of like watching it this time round, sort of see the idea that like Asuka sort of like trying to emulate Masato,
Right.
Because of like Kaji's attraction to Masato.
Yeah, okay.
Asuka's
Oh,
wanting
man.
to have Kaji like show those feelings towards her, so she wants
Puts
to
on
wear
her
the
clothes.
lavender perfume
that
that
right.
Masato owns. To which Masato's like, you're too young for
You're too young for lavender.
yeah, you're too young for lavender.
Lavender is a notorious aphrodisiac.
I think it's like that's Masato's like perfume for like attracting
Business time.
Kajis. And that's why she's like, no, you can't be attracting the Kajis.
No. Man.
Yeah, so
How far
she
is-
wants to put the perfume on.
How far is this emulating Masato thing going to go, though, if that's what you're saying? Rip off
But
her
yeah,
face and
it's
wear it as
definitely
a-
there that this like idea of like she's emulating the older woman in her life, who is
yeah.
having success with the man that she
Yeah.
is infatuated with. It's like sort of watching it now. It's like it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
clear, and
Well,
it's like
I'll be
this
on the
nice
look,
little
yeah.
detail that's there, and it's put in place with a line like where Asuka wants to wear the same perfume that Masato does to her date
Yeah.
with the
Yes. The dude, the boy.
the class rep's
Yes.
sister's
Oh my
friend.
God, yeah.
So many layers
Yeah,
of disconnect
right.
there.
Uh-huh.
But then when Masato's not home, she just helps herself to Masato's like house clothes and sort of like plays Masato
Yeah.
now. And we'd sort of
For
mentioned,
Shinji.
yeah, and we'd mentioned earlier about how Masato and Shinji's like that sort of flirtiness has subsided in recent episodes.
Yeah.
And like going back, you could almost like when Asuka was introduced to the show and moved in,
Yeah.
is that when it happened?
Maybe it's the jacket. You're saying that Masato wore that yellow jacket primarily at the start.
No, it's the shirt. Just
The
keep
shirt, sorry. The yellow shirt. And then she's now not wearing it so
it. No,
much.
but she wears it.
She does?
Yeah, it's only when Masato's not home is that you always see Asuka puts it on.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about, which you do get in this episode as well, is you hear Shinji playing the music that he normally plays on his headphones.
Oh.
You hear it playing on speakers.
Man,
this
you've
time.
done some super sleuthing this episode.
Well, like it's a show from my childhood, and this is like a rewatch. I would say a little bit more attentive to details.
Right, I'm just watching it for the chicks.
Sort of like used to just sort of gloss over me.
Right,
and like this is the research. So listening to like. So Shinji throughout, whenever he's on his like Walkman,
yes,
he always lets track 24, I think it is, or 25 play, and then it goes to 26, and he clicks it back to the start.
Oh, what's track 26?
And so in the show, in an early episode, it's not the same, but I think from the episode 3 where he bails, and he gets on the train,
yeah.
In that episode onwards, it's always the same 2 tracks.
Okay,
and I forget the order,
right?
But it goes from one track, which is "You Are the Only One," and I think it then goes to another track, which is Blue Legend.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
And you could probably like dig into those lyrics a little bit more. I think you are the only one is really fitting for like Shinji.
Well, he's like the chosen.
Yeah. So I do think that the tracks were chosen for lyrical content and sort of themes.
Yeah.
But a little interesting thing is that's from a video game soundtrack.
Oh.
And the person who sings those tracks is the voice actress of Masato.
Damn.
So, and then you got this like "You Are the Only One," and it's like essentially being serenaded by
Masato.
So that's like a weird little like
some meta,
interesting choice of music. Like it's a recurring thing. These are the 2 tracks that he listens to. But in the scene where Asuka insists on kissing him, like to pass the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Another lame-o excuse. Yeah. All right.
"You Are the Only One" is playing in while she's kissing him.
Right.
Yeah. Or when they're coming in close.
Oh, and what was the name of the other song you said? Blue
Legend.
What color does he go when he can't breathe? Oh man, I'm a super sleuth too.
That's a reading.
All right.
These are maybe a little bit of like reading into it, but I think there is a point where you can dig too far into something.
No, bullshit.
But then what I would also argue is that intertextuality and the power of it is that sometimes, well, most times, when you use intertextuality in your work of art, just the name, just putting it in there, it enriches. Enriches?
Go for it. Enriches.
Enriches. I just fucked myself there. It enriches. It enriches the work just by association.
Yeah.
And you don't have to dig too far in. Just having the name of something or the little reference to it is enough to give texture to a work. And I think when you look at things like the song choice and little details like that, they are there to just give you something to not take too literally, not dig into, but to like, just to, not get a crazy wall of like strings and things like that. But it just is like, oh, that's like a little thing, and it's consistent with the themes of the show.
Just to please our little mecha boners, just enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meta boners.
Taking the pin out and going back to the whole thing with Rei.
Yep.
So before Shinji goes to the cemetery with Gendo, Rei
in the elevator.
Yep. Rei and Shinji have that moment in the elevator where he's like, he asks her about Gendo, and she's like, I don't know, which is like another look into their sort of like relationship. That even though she sort of like smiles and comes alive in Gendo's presence, she still doesn't know much about him, and that it's more just like a thing they have, without going really into who each other are. But Shinji says that the way the
way you wrung that cloth,
reminded him of a mother.
Yeah.
That sort of like, I guess just the sort of maternal sort of like caring nature of it.
Yeah.
And Rei has like a very sort of like bashful reaction to it.
She blushes
and was like, why would you say that?
Well, she blushes, and then when Shinji says, "Oh, you probably be a good housewife."
Oh yeah.
Then she's like,
"Yeah, what are you saying?"
What did you just say?
Yeah. So like rounding out this episode with Rei, we also get a really sort of creepy scene between Gendo and Rei. She's in this large tube,
Yes.
which is connected to I would describe as a brain-like
Yeah.
machine.
Reminded me of the Magi.
Yes, very evocative
Yeah.
of their internal
Yes.
sort of construction.
Yeah.
And she's like, she smiles at Gendo, he smiles at her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does she smile too?
Yeah, she smiles.
Oh, okay.
Well, he smiles first and then she smiles in return.
Oh, all right.
I think is how that plays out.
Okay.
But that's just like one of those weird, like, what's going on with that sort of moments that Gendo and Rei's time spent with each other is very sort of like strange extracurricular activities.
So what kind? Yeah, putting it lightly. So yeah, what? Shinji's like, what kind of man is my dad? She's like, I don't know. He puts me in a tube sometimes though, and hooks a massive brain to me. But
who doesn't?
Can't really tell you. Oh, Shinji.
Yeah. Also, in that very tail end of the episode, Masato catches Kaji up to his own extracurricular activities, and basically reveals that she knows he's a double agent, that he's working for the Ministry of Defense.
And it's also Kaji also reveals that he knows that Gendo knows what he's doing.
Everyone knows.
Everyone
what's going
knows
on,
everything,
and
it's
Kaji's sort of confident that.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be fine because of Gendo's knowledge of it. That Gendo wants what he's doing to happen.
Right. That's why he knows he's not in danger or anything.
Yeah, and he opens the door to a room that's marked as like trespassers will be shot, and reveals a room that Masato's clearly never seen before.
Correct.
And it's a facility that they say is the LCL production plant.
Oh, all
and
right.
LCL is the stuff that is put in the entry plugs.
Yeah.
Which Shinji says smells like blood.
The liquid stuff that you can breathe.
Yeah, that orangey sort of yellow.
Oh, you think it's Adam's blood?
Well, yeah, and then Kaji says that it's Adam on that cross.
Yeah.
It's got the lance that Unit 0 was carrying in the last episode.
The thing that Gendo retrieved from the Antarctic.
Yeah.
The site of the second
they've
impact.
They've pierced Adam.
Yep.
Well, that's what they're calling it. With the lance, and it's bleeding. Also, down the bottom, it's like mounted to a cross.
Yes,
so its hands are
and the lance of Longinus. Is that?
I think it's in its chest.
Okay. When Jesus was on the cross, remember he got pierced in the side.
Yep.
Is that the lance of Longinus?
That's the name they gave it to it. Yeah, after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In sort of like extracurricular mythology,
right?
That the Roman soldier who pierced his side was Longinus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So good. Okay. Just confirming.
Yeah. No, that is another sort of Judeo-Christian reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Masato's like, that's a fucking angel. Kaji's like, that's Adam. And they're like both sort of like, Kaji, I guess, knew something was in there, and Masato is just sort of like left reeling, like, what the fuck's an angel doing in the basement of Nerve?
Yeah.
So a sort of big reveal, especially when you like realize that the LCL is angel blood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
some Charlie Sheen type shit going on. Man, I'm living on straight angel blood, my dude.
Yeah.
Winning.
Shinji's only got one gear.
Go.
Crushing depression. But yeah, you've got the Adam, you know, like it's got like all what look like small human bodies sticking out of the lumps coming out of the bottom of it.
Oh,
like it's made up of like
yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, it's got nothing
out
below
of the bottom,
waist,
yes,
and then it's all the lumps.
Yeah,
and then there are legs and like that look like white people sticking out of it. It's a very interesting sort of design. It's got the mask with a
got like 7 eyes or something.
Yeah, 7 eyes, and it's got like a triangle that the eyes are on the edges of.
Yeah. God, it was creepy.
The next episode we'll be talking about today is episode 16, Splitting of the Breast, originally aired on January 17th, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and Hiroshi Yamaguchi, and directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki. This one, Splitting of the Breast.
Splitting of the Breast.
Which we did a little bit of Googling around, because that sounds like a turn of phrase.
Yeah.
Which may not necessarily be a one-to-one, but it does refer to a psychological sort of model about the inability sort of as a defense mechanism to reconcile. Yeah. Well, I mean, it can obviously extend into all ages, but they use like a child as a model for this sort of psychological understanding. that the idea of not being able to separate, or rather separating the two different sides of a person or something into a wholly good thing or a wholly bad thing.
Yes.
And then viewing those as separate entities instead of being able to reconcile the two halves.
Yeah, that something can be, you can have good experiences with something, you can have bad experiences with something. Yeah. And it's still the same one thing.
It's like the refusal to have an ambivalent view of someone.
Something is either good or bad.
Yeah. And the idea of like splitting of the breast coming from the sort of viewing, like from a child's perspective, like the attentive, loving mother that's like nurturing. Yeah, and then the moments where they're unattentive or non-responsive to the cries and viewing those as two different people.
Right.
So yeah, like the splitting of the breast and the good breast and the bad breast.
Yeah. After seeing this episode, it's clear what that is in relation to.
Yeah. This following on from the previous episode where we actually start talking about Shinji's mother, who has previously been either ignored as a sort of factor in this story.
She's just been dead. That's all we know.
And this is another episode building on this, like lady. That there is something more to that story, and Shinji, who can barely remember her face and would like to see pictures but can't. The sort of splitting of the breast and that idea of like sort of the childhood view of a maternal figure is something that they really start to work in, especially with the way the angel attacks in this one.
Yes, the shadow.
Yeah, so this is our first angel fight since
it's been a while.
The one that hacked the
that never happened, man. That never happened.
Oh yeah, sorry,
remember?
That never happened.
That never happened.
Yeah, which wasn't really a conventional sort of like Neon Genesis like Angel Evangelion fight. It was a let's see how Nerve handles a problem when they can't just punch it to death.
We've talked many times now of the angel fights being a vehicle for character stuff, right?
Yeah, the themes of the episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just said, the last one, the one that infiltrated Nerve HQ, gave us an opportunity to learn more about the Magi's, learn about Ritsuko and her mother.
Yep.
And this one, it was like straight vehicle, if you know what I mean. It was totally just a way of letting us see about Shinji and his internal.
Yeah, well, we start this episode with another sync test where
a lot of testing lately.
Yeah, well, I mean, in previous episode, Ritsuko does mention that like just because they're winning doesn't mean they can't keep advancing the technology.
Yeah,
and true. The sync tests are a way that they can work out better ways.
Shinji's number one.
Yeah, Shinji is number one. And
Shinji.
Asuka really doesn't like that.
No, she wouldn't.
The big rant, Shinji-sama. the
Shinji
great
Sama, which you taught me, is like what you refer to like a lord or royalty, or
the all great Shinji
Sama.
And like Ray doesn't give two fucks about her little rant.
No,
just bails, and Asuka sort of just dwelling in that frustration. But as we see when the angel attacks, that frustration with Shinji like leads to her goading him into sort of like taking lead and essentially putting himself into a position where he's going to be embarrassed.
You reckon Shinji
or put in his place?
You reckon Shinji wouldn't have done that if it weren't for Asuka's?
Well, I think he's riding high on that confidence. Like, he's a character who hasn't had a lot of like confidence building.
Yeah,
he's very passive.
Aren't you a man?
Yeah, self-deprecating, and that's something in a previous in the opening parts of the episode where we see more of Asuka, Shinji, and Misato's home life, where he turns the tap on and Asuka's having a shower, so that results in it being too hot. She comes out, she chastises him. He immediately apologizes, and she's like, like, why apologize? You apologize before you're even sorry, like before you're actually sorry. Like it's disingenuous. Sort of thing.
No one told me to stop apologizing. So I just apologize for everything.
Completely within character as well,
right?
And so we get that there's like tension there that that Asuka is already feeling that like aspects of his personality, like the two of them are really butting heads.
They really are.
Shinji seems to be like mostly sort of annoyed, but probably a little bit more indifferent to it all.
I think he's just accepted what his life is now.
And then we go to the fight, and Asuka is now like goading him into like taking point, and it's like Masato, Ritsuko, and the other command crew are like just like kids. Completely unimpressed.
Who the hell's idea was it to recruit strictly 14-year-olds?
Gendo, Ritsuko, and Gendo, Fuyutsuki, and Keel, according to that Marduk Institute report.
Yeah, right. Anyway, seems like a mistake.
Yeah, so they attack this angel, which appears as like a zebra ball.
Yes, that's why I thought it was a zebra when it first arrived.
Yeah, floating over the city, very Ramiel-esque poser.
Go on.
They engage.
Right.
Shinji taking point, and he falls into the trap.
Yeah.
A portal to the Shadow Realm.
You gotta hate that.
Opens the Sea of Dirac, or Dirac Sea. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about Dirac. This was something. You did some super sleuthing of your own last.
Yeah, I see words like
you dropped some
Dirac,
facts.
and I'm like, oh, I've got to Google that.
Yeah,
you
but,
on the other hand just know
exactly. Dirac, Paul Dirac was a theoretical physicist. He was the first to theorize antiparticles, I believe.
Right, which makes sense.
Yes,
because my Googling
yin and yang
resulted in a
white.
Dirac Sea being a theoretical model of a large sort of event horizon of a vacuum created by negative particles.
Right. So, a whole lot of yin-yang, black-white, positive-negative motifs going on.
Also splitting of the breast. The idea, back to that psychological model of viewing like wholly good, wholly bad, and seeing like only the black and white of a situation. Yep. And then you have a angel which appears as a black and white striped ball. Very much like the Pribnow box from the Lilliputian Hatcher. Where you know, like you've got that one phrase and you look into it and you can see where like it's not a 1-to-1, but it's enough that's like, yes, I see where they're going with this.
I see what they're doing.
Yeah, so Shinji completely submerges into the Dirac Sea.
They try pulling him out, but no dice.
Yeah, the umbilical cable just disconnects.
Ouch.
With no Unit 1 on the end of it.
Right.
In the fight, when it initially happens, like it appears under... Ray takes a shot with that big sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And then the shadow appears under Unit 2, and Asuka sort of climbs a building to get away from it. And they basically wrap the operation. They go into like sort of what are we going to do mode. The shadow expands out to 600 meters and then stops. So either confirming that that's sort of its maximum size. And they work out that the ball that appears in the sky is actually the shadow of the entity that is like the Dirac Sea.
A lot of
which is a 600
quantum
meter
weirdness going on.
Like diameter.
Right. Sphere.
A disc.
Oh yeah,
that's 3
nanometers.
Nanometers.
Yeah, right.
In size or in thickness.
Yeah.
So this like ultra wide, super thin, like shadow, like
reminiscent of Gendo's poetic bullshit that he drops on all his underlings.
Ultra wide, super
wide, grandiose, very intimidating, impressive looking. When really. Shallow. Nothing to it. Shallow as hell.
So they call the operation off, and they go into like rescue mode,
right?
Or at the very least, rescue
the unit.
1 mode.
Yeah. Well,
and they come up. Ritsuko comes up with the plan to drop. Is it 998
something like
N2
that.
mines?
Yeah.
All at once,
right?
Hoping to blow Unit 1 out of the sea.
That couldn't have worked.
I think they're gonna. I think the plan was that the 2 remaining Ava units they would direct their AT fields to pierce the thing, and then they drop the N2 mines into the pierced hull,
right? And
then that explosion would blow Unit 1 out of the hull.
I don't know, man. And Masato's like, okay, but what would happen to Shinji? I was thinking, what would happen to the unit? Surely that wouldn't have worked.
Well, their idea is that it would severely cripple it, but it would be intact. Like core of it would be intact.
Yeah.
So that they'd be able to like regrow it, rebuild it.
Well, hey, that's the thing that's in the air right now, right?
Yeah.
Rebuild or regrow? Regrow, I think.
Definitely. It's we're starting to see a lot of paying off of the little sort of things that they seeded early on in the season. The idea that the unit is organic, that it was like created. They allude to like the similarities between Adam and humans' DNA. So there was this idea that they were maybe like some sort of grown from humans sort of thing.
Right.
But then now Masato, after being shown Adam,
on the cross,
she's come to this idea that it's the Evangelions are copies of Adam.
Yeah.
And a sort of like Ritsuko thinking to herself sort of confirms like, what have we, like, in copying
what
this
what monster have we copied from, I think she says. Yeah, right.
So Masato is really starting to see how much has been kept from her.
She's piecing it all together.
Yeah, and she does confront Ritsuko in this episode about, like, what are they hiding from her?
And Ritsuko says... She also says, what would Shinji and Rei think if they knew what we did, or the truth behind the Evas?
Oh.
Yeah, she says that.
Yeah,
or either her or Masato. I think it's Ritsuko. One of them definitely says, what would Rei and Shinji think? Which is an odd thing to say
in
as
that
well.
conversation that they're having out on the deck, with the helicopter watching them with the spotlight.
A cat fight.
Yeah.
Zoom in, boys.
Ritsuko cops the real heavy slap from Masato, knocks those glasses right the fuck off her face. Yeah, so Masato, definitely that sort of like parental sort of guardian is coming out in her.
Yeah,
you know, she's really become endeared to Shinji. I think and her responsibility for him is really starting to show through.
Well, we see right at the end when he comes back.
Yeah,
she's like sobbing over his body.
She's the first in there, which is like one of those, like, in the sort of Neon Genesis parlance, the way they show sort of affection for someone or concern is always the pod being opened by the person who is most concerned for them in that moment.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's Masato who opens the pod.
Yeah, because we saw Gendo open it for Rei back when, Rei... in
the test.
Yeah, in the test.
Where it went berserk.
And then we saw Shinji then open it for Rei.
Yeah.
Another time.
And Masato, very similar to Shinji in that situation where he's like hugging Rei and crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could almost, not quite exactly the same, but sort of, Masato's father,
when he puts her into the escape pod.
Yeah.
And that escape pod looks a lot like an entry plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Asuka's there too at the end as well.
Yeah.
I know she has like a snide remark, but like she's there because she cares.
She's there because she cares.
Yeah. Weren't you going to scold him?
She there. She cares. Something else.
I don't think we can talk about this episode without going on to a bit of a look into the angel itself.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
So it's Layliel.
Layliel.
And
what's Layliel mean?
So it's like the angel Layla is where it derives from.
Met her at a club down in Oxford.
So it's the angel of the night.
Ooh.
Essentially. And
that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, but it's also considered to be like a feminine name. Like all of this is sort of tying into the sort of real maternal drive of this episode. Splitting of the breast, Masato.
This episode and the previous one as well.
Yeah. Yep. And Masato's concern for Shinji becoming very much like maternal.
Yep.
And what happens inside the angel.
At the very end.
Yeah, once Shinji's life support starts to give out and he starts having some sort of like out-of-body experience / hallucination, where he sort of confronts this idea in a very sort of direct way, this idea of splitting and how he's confronted by that voice, which is him. And it's like that there is a Shinji that exists in everyone he knows,
everyone,
and that Shinji is just as real as him.
That's right. You're just an amalgamation, I guess, of everyone's Shinjis. Yeah. The Shinji that they all have inside their heads. And that they are
all viable Shinjis.
They're just
they
as
aren't
relevant.
Other people.
Yeah.
That they are, like, and he needs to reconcile that. Yeah. And not run away from it because, like, being afraid of the Shinjis in other minds is, like, what causes him to run away because he's, like, very directly confronted with the idea that, like, he's afraid of being hurt. And that fear of being hurt is why he's afraid of the Shinjis and the way he exists in other people's minds.
Yeah. So then his mother comes.
Yeah. So his mother appears to him just at the very end of his life. Yeah. And what is the thing that she says?
Oh, yeah. That's good for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for you.
Yeah, but what prompts her to say
I'm
that?
ready.
Right.
He says, No, she says, are you ready? And he says, yeah. She's like, well, that's good for you.
Right.
Which I didn't really understand.
And then the next thing that happens is, Unit 1 goes berserk again.
Yeah, and bursts out of there.
Yeah, rips out of the angel's
the unit frees himself from the ball.
Yep.
So he free balls. Much like Kaji did last episode.
You're tying it to Kaji, and I'm like,
uh-huh.
To me, is this like a rebirth of Shinji?
Oh.
And it's playing with a sort of brutal, like, sort of birth, or like, if not a really brutal birth, a sort of like baby-driven cesarean.
Yeah, right.
Right,
like an amniotic sac sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's like he's tearing himself free from the womb, and there's like the blood from the angel is like spewing out everywhere,
which we now know is
and
LB,
it's just
whatever.
This howling creature, that's just been like cast out into the world again, and everyone is like looking in horror at this like sort of extremely traumatic sight.
Well, it wasn't. Everyone's reaction was interesting.
Yeah,
it wasn't more like, oh, Shinji's is alive, or the unit. Wow, it was like horror. Like, my God, look at that thing.
What have we created?
Yeah,
what is this thing?
Yeah,
and everyone is prompted to have a like.
You gotta. This thing, right? Everyone thought the Eva was dead.
Yep,
the unit was dead, and it manages to rip itself. And they're like, man, how do we get it out?
It's also supposed to have no power.
Yeah, 900 bombs. What are we going to do? And then it rips itself out, right? Desperately. And people are like, oh, gee, the way it escaped death. I don't know. I mean,
it prompts everyone to have like a real introspective moment. Like,
it was so bizarre.
Ritsuko and Gendo standing, in the cage that they keep Unit 1 in.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they called the storage place the cage. They're standing on that gantry,
right,
watching it getting hosed down. They're in their raincoats. And she's like, how do we know that the Avas, once we've defeated the angels... oh, no, that's Masato's thought. What are they going to do with the Avas once the angels are dead?
Yeah, once we don't need the Avas
what's
anymore.
What's the plan for them?
Yeah.
And
actually, I think it's in that conversation between Gendo and Ritsuko that Ritsuko says, what would Rei and Shinji think?
Right.
I think
if they knew.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because she also was like, in this moment, she was like, what if they turned against us? And like... So now, for me, it feels like Ritsuko's like a sort of, in her pondering, in her musings, it's gone from being that they're just like a living being,
right?
That's like being grown,
but like
has to be
like ethical stuff, To
now it's like, does it also have sentience? And her being concerned about that sentience. This is the second time she's raised a concern about that. When she thought that Unit 0 was trying to kill her.
That's right.
And now, after seeing Unit 1 escape from the Angel, she's once again concerned about them turning against them.
Right.
So, like, for me, it's like Ritsuko has a genuine fear of the true nature of them, but more, I guess, their agency.
Yes.
Like what the Evangelion wants.
Right.
And she doesn't feel like she's on the side of what they want.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, something to really, like, sort of...
Oh, definitely.
Keep in mind in future episodes.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Her relationship with the Evangelions.
That's what it's kind of... You make
because I don't think she made them. They were there before she came along.
I think so.
Her contribution is she says she built upon the work of her mother.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so the actual manufacturing of the angels, I think, was done before her time, and the idea of the Magi was before her time.
Yeah.
But she's come along to help perfect both of these technologies. But she's not the progenitor of those things.
No, I don't think so. I think she's probably a bit too young.
So I
anyway.
think there is a little bit of like concern about like the.
But she's close enough to the project where she feels like, gee, I'm part of it. What am I part of?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, she knows.
Yeah,
she knows all the secrets that they're keeping from Masato.
It is,
the true nature of the LCL, which. When the filtration system goes out, and
Shinji's
like, smells
this
like
blood,
and
creeps
we now know that it's the blood of Adam. The LCL that the LCL plant is just an open wound.
I think that's a great point that you just made. Yeah, the show as now the first part of the series was like what are the angels? What is the nature of them? Now that we're seeing a little bit more of that, or we're being revealed a little bit more of that, this whole Adam instrumentality project, we're getting a little bit more teasers of what they are. Now it's transitioning to, well, what do they want? What is their motivation? What are they going to do?
Yeah. How does this all tie into instrumentality?
Yeah.
What is Gendo's agenda? Because Gendo's agenda is human instrumentality, but for a different end than Seilei's.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He is working for them out of convenience, but he's clearly got an ulterior motive that is parallel to theirs.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is the idea that the LCL, when it starts to stagnate and it starts to smell like blood, you've got Shinji, he goes into a fetal position.
Oh,
and that's when his mother appears.
Right.
And so it's like the smell of blood, he's in a fetal position, and later on he bursts from it.
Yeah.
It's all this very like sort of like in utero,
definitely,
sort of like imagery going on.
Yeah.
And like that's when she appears.
Hey, and umbilical cords as well.
Yeah, and we're starting to get a lot of those with the sort of discussion of Shinji's mum. We're now starting to get a lot of maternal and sort of like pregnancy / birth, like all that sort of stuff is starting to filter into the shows.
Hold it.
Like it's coming in from the peripheries and it's being drawn into the center now.
Pen, right?
Yeah.
Bear with me. This is going to be a reach.
All of this.
This is going to be a reach. No. Don't penguins? Don't they raise their children in a sort of weird way, or the eggs? Don't the mother and father?
I think the emperor penguin.
Yeah.
Which is what Pen is.
Okay.
They hold the egg under the folds of their skin.
Right.
They sit it on their feet and then hold it under the folds to keep it warm. Okay. So the egg is laid, and then the father holds onto it. I think.
Yeah, and there's this one. Isn't there one kind of penguin where, one of them is cradling it on their feet, and the other one goes to get food?
The mother goes and it fishes.
Interesting.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at It's Got Stealth, and old Jen is completely off the grid.
Off the grid. Call me a penguin egg, man, because I'm completely enclosed.
Thanks for listening.